everybody was welcome. And when Newman was alive, he and Joanne Woodward, his wife, were there to welcome the kids. And I heard a very funny story when I was there this summer. I volunteered. I forget when that was, but I think it was maybe 7 years ago. Some of you who know Newman, he has his own label, Newman's Own, all these products, popcorn and tomato sauce and salad dressing and lemonade. So, of course, when we had our meals, everything practically was Paul Newman's label. And his lemonade was done in a carton. And on the carton was his face. He kind of was joking about his products, and he would put funny things on his products. And one of the little children remembered that when there's a lost child, they sometimes put their face on a milk carton. So one of the children said to him, "Are you lost?" And the counselors told me he just got the biggest kick out of that. But he would wander through the camp summer after summer. I'm sure these children didn't have any idea of who he was and what a wonderful, wonderful heart he had. He loved the children, and he welcomed them all. So it was a great experience. And as it turned out, the group they assigned me that summer was a group of boys who had AIDS. Interesting that it had nothing to do with the other camp I was at, but so I was working with, I think they were 8 to 10-year-old boys. So it was a great summer. I know the kids all had a wonderful, wonderful time. In New York as well, where I live, there is a maximum security prison about 3 minutes away from the house. I didn't know it was even there. It's kind of hiding on a little country road. And I decided that I would volunteer at that prison. I'd never been in a prison in my life. And I kind of think that was the beginning of my journey with becoming involved with the criminal justice system. So that began in 2007. And I became a teacher, volunteer teacher, for the next 4 years from 2007 to 2011. And the reason I wanted to volunteer is my graduate degree is in learning disabilities. And what we know is that many, many young boys in juvenile detention have serious learning disabilities. And of course, if the young boys have a learning disability, then if that's not addressed, what are we going to see in the men's prisons? We're going to see the same thing. So the rate of illiteracy, the rate of learning problems in prison among men is extremely high. But it's not being addressed because they're not going to hire a specialist to tutor these men. But I thought maybe I could make a difference, maybe. So I began by doing exactly that, tutoring the men one at a time. I would sit at a table in the back of the room while the teacher was teaching and try to help them with their reading, their spelling, and their writing. But then I wanted to have a larger impact. And I decided to help them pass their GED, their high school diploma class. And in New York, if you don't have a diploma when you come to prison, you don't have a high school diploma, you are required to attend school, which I think is a great requirement. So the classes had about 20 men in each class, about 10 different classes. And what I wanted to do was to reach more men. So I took over for the teacher, and the teacher sat in the back, and I would teach a class Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday. So I taught 120 men a week. And what we worked on was creative writing. And the essay portion of the GED requires maybe like a 3-paragraph, 4-paragraph essay about a personal topic, something that the men know about. So you can't really have a wrong answer. So a question might be, who was a great influence in your life? And then they can address that in an essay. So I did that for 4 years, and then I stopped teaching. You're not allowed to visit anyone in prison if you're a volunteer. So I stopped volunteering, and now I visit 6 of those men that I had in class. And now to one of the most important volunteer, I don't know that I want to call it a job, because it really isn't, but out of Greenhaven, that was the prison, I neglected to mention the name of it, Greenhaven Correctional Facility, with about 2,400 men, a maximum security prison. One day in one of the classes that I was teaching, I would read to the men from various memoirs to have them hear what good writing sounded like. And I read from Barack Obama's memoir, many African-American memoirs that they really could relate to. But one time I discovered a book that I thought they might like, and it was a book of stories written by women in a maximum security prison in Connecticut. So I brought the book to class, and I picked out a short story. It was only 4 pages, and I read it to the men, and the story was called A Gift. And it was written by a young woman who had been incarcerated at age 14 and was still in prison. One of the men said to me, "Wow, that's a great story. Did you write to her and tell her how much we enjoyed her story?" And of course, I had read it to all 10 classes. And I said, "No, I didn't do that. I wrote to the author who edited the book. He's a famous author. His name is Wally Lamb." And they said to me, "Wait, we didn't ask you that. We asked you if you wrote to her, not the man who edited the book." And I said, "No, I didn't do that." And they said, "Well, how about you do that?" And so they shamed me into it, and I wrote her. But I didn't hear from her for 4 months because she had attempted suicide, and she was in a very bad place, mentally and emotionally and physically. But I finally heard from her 4 months later and asked if she would be interested in coming to see her. And it's a 6-hour round trip up to her prison from where we are. But we did get to see her. And that was 11 years ago. And since then, when we are in New York, we go to see her on a regular basis. And what has happened is that we have, in a sense, adopted her as our daughter. So when I talk about changing lives one at a time, I think that's how you do it. That I wish I could change the criminal justice system. I'm doing the best I can with the work I do for the Innocence Project of Florida, but it's really not enough. What I think really makes a difference is to try to get involved with one person. And that's very much what has happened with this young woman whose name is Robin. She has accomplished a great deal. She has been in prison now for 25 years, since she was 14. She will be 39 this year. And she has just graduated from college, a 2-year college. So she has what we call an associate's degree. She's now working on her bachelor's degree. She is a certified nurse assistant. She is a published author. She's a prize-winning author. There was a contest, I guess a few years ago, that goes on every year for people in prison to submit a piece of writing. And she won 3rd prize out of the entire nation. They don't give very many prizes, but she got one. She is now a mentor in her prison, mentoring the young teenagers, because she knows what it was like to come into prison at a very, very young age. And the New York Times has written some stories about her because her program is kind of a pilot program that the governor of Connecticut started and has gotten some very, very good press. So we have created a bond. We write to each other. When I can't see her, we call. And when we are back in New York, of course, we see her on a regular basis. So I know she has made an impact in my life. She's made a difference to me, and I hope that I have done the same. At least we are there for her when she needs us. She hasn't had a very reliable set of parents, some very sad stories. But she pursues her goals, her dreams. She hasn't given up, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I encourage my listeners to write to me at the new email. I'll give it to you. It's called pursuing.justice5@gmail.com. And I wanted to tell you what's coming up. It's always nice to know programs that are in the works. We have 3 guests coming up. 2 of them are parents of the executive director of the Innocence Project of Florida. And we have a lawyer who is from Sarasota and has been extremely supportive and philanthropic wherein the Innocence Project of Florida is concerned. So I encourage you to stay tuned and join us next time on Pursuing Justice.